All right. Just here. All right. So if everybody can hear me okay, just give me a thumbs up. Pretty good? Cool. So I thought first we could just pull a flower card and see what flower, what energy to work on today, maybe give a focus to in our practice. First of all, welcome everyone to an all-over yoga class. I'm Rachel with the Bloomin' Witch. So you can either decide to start seated, if you want to remain seated as we begin, or if you're more comfortable lying down on your back, then go ahead and lie down and get comfortable with your legs just stretched out in front of you. And if you are in the seat, just coming to a comfortable seated position. I'm going to pull a card and then I'll read about what that flower is. Pulled chamomile for stability. Chamomile says, even on a cloudy day, the sun is shining. It is just obscured. Chamomile reminds you that even when faced with challenges and difficulties, your soul's warmth, serenity, and equanimity is always present within, soothing and calming, helping you weather any storm in a relaxed, harmonious state. Chamomile has been used for centuries in teas as a calming sleep aid and to gently soothe stomach ailments. She is a great ally for children and the child within us that feels scared, lost, and confused in our big, complicated world. The stomach, or the solar plexus, and in Sanskrit we call it the Manipura chakra, is where we feel our personal power. This is our power to make sense of and participate fully in our lives, and our power to remain calm and stable in the metaphorical storms that inevitably occur in our lives. Every single one of us has our own microstorms raging within us as well as around us. Our own stories and dramas, which impact our lives and which are reflected in and contribute to the collective. It is easy to get caught up in all the irritations of daily life, with all the pushing and competition surrounding us. As we naturally try to find firm ground or find calm within the chaos, we find ourselves labeling, categorizing, and judging everything, every experience, and everyone, including ourselves, to make sense of it all and to lessen the fear and anxiety we feel within. But the winds of change are constantly whipping at our hair, the rains of despair flooding our gardens, and the frustration of earthquakes shaking us all to our cores. That is the way life gets our attention. We need it all in our faces so that we can feel it, see it, express it, and ultimately move through it. Storms give us an opportunity to shake things up, change, grow, renew, or build as necessary. This is where chamomile really works her magic. She is the calm in the eye of the storm, and she is the sun hiding behind the scary dark clouds. She reminds us that we each have our own direct access to our guiding light within, our own process for understanding, self-acceptance, and ultimately for coming together personally and collectively, stabilizing. We can't control the perceived chaos and the turmoil of life on our planet without destroying it. We can remember to tap into our power within, our calm center of presence. From the stable vantage point, we can clearly see the divinity in all beings and all experiences, so that when the storm eventually subsides, we can celebrate, honor, and respect our innate strength, power, and resilience. So just take a few moments as you rest here to think about the way that you respond or react when you find yourself in uncertain environments or situations or anything like that. And maybe start to think about some tools that you call upon when you're needing a sense of stability in your own life. So when we talk about those grounding energies, those stabilizing energies, we're really starting to work with those lower chakras. So from the root right about up to the solar plexus that was mentioned in my reading. So again, just thinking about some really grounding, stabilizing practices or tools that you're able to call upon. Let's maybe take a moment to speak an intention around this idea of stability. So just a short affirming phrase. Speak that into your mind a few times. One of those tools that we always have with us is our breath. Really focusing on the quality of your breath and the steadiness of your breath. See if you can start to lengthen out your inhale and your exhale a bit, filling up your belly and your ribs and your chest as you inhale. And then feeling the chest and the rib cage and the belly soften and relax as you exhale. As so many things are up in the air during this time, and a lot of things feel unclear or uncertain, sense of stability is a really needed energy right now. Stability is something that many people are craving. Unfortunately, that some are not able to experience at the moment. For those of us that are lucky enough to feel that sense of stability, make sure we just offer a moment of gratitude. Make sure that we're not taking this for granted. Feeling the breath pass in and out of your nose a few more rounds. Feeling the weight of your body either lying or sitting on the floor. And then little by little, let's bring a bit of movement into the fingertips, toes, and more of the hands and the feet. And whether you're seated or lying down, let's reach the arms up overhead and just take a full body stretch. And then if you are seated, let's go ahead and lie down on the back. And we'll gradually bring the knees into the chest. Rock a little side to side. And let's take some knee circles. So keeping the knees together, circling them in one direction to start. And then reverse, take the knees in the opposite direction. And then we'll take the knees in circles away from each other, so in opposite directions. And then reverse again. Now the knees come towards one another. And then we'll hug them back in. Place the feet flat on the mat. Take the arms out nice and wide. And let's lower the knees over to the right into a spinal twist. Now you can keep your gaze upright, looking up towards the ceiling, or you might turn your gaze away from your knees. And take a few full body breaths. And then we'll bring the head and knees back up through center. Same thing, but in reverse. So knees drop over to the left, and then perhaps turning head. And then head and knees come back to center. Knees come back into chest, and then we'll grab hold of either the feet or the shins, maybe the backs of the knees, for happy baby pose. Opening those feet nice and wide. Might like to rock it out a bit side to side to start. And sometimes while I'm here, I like to stretch into one leg a little bit more. And I'll take it over to the other leg. Maybe do that a few times, side to side. And just one more moment here in happy baby. Bring the heels together and then the knees together. And start to gently rock yourself up and over onto your hands and knees, making your way to tabletop. Just as you arrive on all fours, make sure to fan out the fingers a bit so you help to equally distribute the weight through the entirety of both hands. Start maybe tucking the toes under and just allow your hips to drop back to your heels, stretching out the soles of your feet and your toes. And then lifting those hips up away from the heels, opening the knees a little bit wider now, moving into hip circles. And then taking those hips and reverse. And then right back to center. Knees can move back in line with the hips. And then we begin some cat-cow. So actually cow-cat. So we'll begin by arching the back, lifting the tailbone, opening the chest, and then looking forward. And with your exhale, begin to round your back, tuck your chin to your chest. Breathing in, opening the chest, broadening the collarbone, and then exhale, we round. And then just keep it going. Find a pace. 3 more. Last one. And take it right back to a neutral spine. Let's slide the left foot straight back and then cross the leg over to the right side of the room and take a look back at that foot. So you're making a C curve in your spine. And then left leg comes back through center. Now swing it out to the left side. Your leg is at your side, and just sink your hips back towards your heels a bit. Feeling a stretch through the inner thigh. And then we'll come back to tabletop, hug the left knee in. Take the right foot, slide it straight back, and then cross it over to the left. Take a look at that foot. And then back to center, sweeping the leg out to the right side, dropping the hips back a bit, stretching into the inner thigh. And then back to all fours, hug the right knee in, moving to Anahatasana or heart melting pose. So similar to child's pose, but we keep the hips elevated over the knees. So begin to walk the hands out, bringing the head and chest all the way down towards your mat. And let's start to lift ourselves up away from the floor and then shift your weight forward, bringing your hips down to the mat and then lower your elbows. So we're in Sphinx pose. So pressing down through the forearms, lifting up the crown of your head, shoulders back away from the ears. And then if you want, you could add some gentle neck stretches or head circles. All moving with care. One more inhale. And then as you exhale, start to lower your head and chest down to the floor and extend your arms out in front of you. Start to reach your toes all the way to the back of the room. And then let's start to lift the right leg up. Now lift the head and chest and lift the left arm. So opposite arm and leg. Reaching fingertips to toes. And then lower everything down. Take a breath. Opposite arm and leg lift. So left leg, right arm, head and chest. And then release down. Now bending at both of your knees, feet lift up in the air. You can walk the knees open wide. And then bring the feet together, heels together, or maybe soles of the feet. And then just let the feet drop back behind you. You can rest your arms by your side. You can stack your arms and rest your head down if you want, or frog pose. We transition out of frog. We'll pull the feet back up away from the ground, plant the hands by the sides of our ribs, and then transition all the way back into a wide knee child's pose. We'll start to sit up on the heels and bring the knees closer together. And if this is really uncomfortable sitting on the heels, you can come into a comfortable cross-leg position. We'll place the right hand behind us on the mat, reach the left arm up. Now you can either keep the hips on the heels or on the ground, or you might choose to lift the hips up and just stretch and open the left side of the body a bit more. And then release the hips, release the left arm down, and we'll switch sides. So the right arm comes up, and then if you want, you have the option to lift the hips. And we lower down all the way into child's pose, reaching those arms out, forehead to floor. Just take a moment to really be present in this pose and think about how the body is grounding and anchoring into your mat. Think about visualizing some energy moving into those lower chakras. So we're building that stabilizing and grounding foundational energy. We'll start to lift up onto all fours. Once we do, we'll tuck the toes under, make sure knees are in line with the hips. Preparing to transition back into downward facing dog. So lift those knees, press the hips back, spread the fingers out again so you're distributing your weight evenly. And if you have a hard time keeping the legs straight, that's totally fine. You can always lift the heels up, small bend in the knees, and just focus on bringing the tailbone back. Relaxing your head down between your upper arms. Think about spiraling the inner elbows forward. And then when you're here, it might feel nice to maybe pedal out the feet, kind of walk out your dog a bit. Sometimes I like to shift my weight side to side, move my hips a little, shake out the head softly. So just get a sense of what your body needs here. Take one or two more breaths. Shift my computer a bit so you guys can see. And then looking up towards the hands, let's start to walk forward towards top of the mat, coming to Uttanasana, standing forward fold. The feet are a comfortable hip distance. You can even let the knees bend a little or a lot here, resting your belly and your chest on the tops of your thighs, and just let the arms and the head dangle. Maybe sway a little side to side. Coming into a twist while we're here. So we'll take the feet maybe just a little wider than the hips. Keep the left hand down on the mat, and then reach your right arm straight up in the air, turning the chest out to the right, either looking sideways or maybe looking up towards your right thumb. And then placing right hand down on the mat, we'll switch sides, reach the left arm up, turn the chest. And then lower the left hand down. Keep a small bend in your knees and just start to roll up slowly, one vertebrae at a time. As you come to standing, roll the shoulders back. Then you can walk those feet back into a comfortable hip distance. Hopefully you guys don't really care about seeing the top of my head here. All right, so coming to Tadasana, resting arms down by our sides. Start to activate the bandha. So the Mula Bandha, the root area, we're kind of drawing that energy up and in. Uddiyana Bandha is the navel lock. So I often like to think about it sort of like a J curve. So if I were to kind of pull in and up. And so it's an energetic hold is what these bandhas are. Shoulders are back. That is the chin lock. So the chin is ever so length along the back of the neck and the crown of the head, just pulling straight up in the air. Let's take the palms to the heart. Thumbs pressing against the sternum. And just take a moment to feet grounding and stabilizing your body on your mat. And then with your next inhale, go ahead and lift both arms up overhead. And as you exhale, we dive all the way down back into Uttanasana. Bringing our palms to our shins, press up halfway. And then exhale, fold back down. Let's step our left foot all the way to the back of the mat into a lunge, placing knee down on the floor. And your first option is to simply bring both hands to the top of your right knee and hold there. The other option is to reach the arms up overhead, Anjaneyasana. So if you notice that your rib cage and the belly is kind of spilling forward, try to draw the rib cage and belly in, maybe pull the hips back a little bit. So again, we want to create a lot of stability through the core. So chamomile, again, is a good flower for today's energy work. Taking a few breaths, just feeling the stretch and the length up and down that left hip flexor, left quadricep. And then let's circle the arms back, opening the chest, lower the hands down to the floor, lift your back knee, and then step forward, feet together, top of your mat. Bring the palms to the shins, again, press up halfway. And exhale, fold back down. And then we'll stand up tall, this time small bend in the knees, the arms lift with us. Palms come together, and then exhale, bring the hands to heart center. Okay, repeating for the other side, we'll inhale the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Palms come to shins. Pressing up halfway, finding length in the spine. Exhale, you fold back down. This time the right foot steps all the way back. You place the knee down. Inhale, we can place the hands to the top of the left thigh or reach the arms up in the air. And then from here, make those little adjustments. Find that sweet spot in your body. As always, attention comes back to the breath. One more inhale. And sweep back, lower down to the mat. We lift our back knee, step the back foot forward, feet together. Pressing palms to shins, lift halfway up. Exhale, lower down. And then we'll stand up nice and tall, sweep those arms up. Exhale, hands come to heart. So again, let's make sure those feet are a comfortable hip distance. We're going to keep the hands at the heart as we come into Utkatasana, or chair pose. So let's start by first kind of tucking the lower belly in, rib cage in, and then we'll lift the toes off the floor. So wiggle those toes around a bit. And then start to sit down like you're sitting in a chair. You don't have to go to your full range of motion or depth here yet. If you're noticing you're leaning forward, try to shift your weight back into the heels a bit. And maybe take those hips down 1 more inch. Now try to imagine that your feet are spreading your mat out in opposite directions. So when you do that, you're really going to feel those outer hips activate. One more breath in. And we exhale back down. Palms come to shins, lift halfway up. Exhale, fold, step your left foot back into a lunge. Place the back knee down. Inhale the arms up. Exhale, we'll twist. So the right arm is sweeping back and the left arm is reaching forward. So chest turns to the right. Now take that back hand, the right hand, place it down on the leg behind you. Take the left arm, reach it up in the air. Now think about lifting the chest up, so you're creating length in the body, length in the spine. And then when you're ready, left hand comes down to the mat, right hand comes up in the air. We'll tuck the back toes, lift our back knee. Revolved lunge. One more breath in. And then lower your right hand down to the mat. Step your right foot back into downward facing dog. Now we're shifting forward into a supported plank. So as the shoulders line up over the wrists, we can lower the knees down to the floor. And you should be able to see that my hips are in front of my knees rather than stacked directly over top. So we're starting to really work the core here a bit. Take one more inhale. And then with the exhale, we lower the arms down, forearms down, elbows down. Now we drop the head. So two options. You can either come directly into child's pose and simply allow the body to rest if that's what it's needing. If you would like to work on dolphin pose, we'll tuck the toes under, hold it up, and then just like downward dog, the knees lift, hips keep lifting, and then the toes walk forward towards the elbows. Now imagine you have a ball between the forearms or the upper arms, and you're hugging that ball, pulling the energy in. One more breath there. And then we'll take it to child's pose. So knees drop, hips back. And then usually after dolphin, I like to drop my arms down by my sides. You can try that out, or you can keep them out in front of you. We'll make our way back to downward dog. Take your time as you transition. Then let's look forward, up towards the hands and start to walk forward towards the top of the mat. Bring your palms to your shins, press up halfway. Exhale, forward fold. And then we start to stand up nice and tall, sweep the arms up overhead. Bring the palms together and exhale, hands back to hearts. A little moment to reset here. Welcome to close your eyes if you want, or simply turn your gaze down towards the tip of your nose. Let your feet anchor and ground and stabilize your body. Chair pose. So again, feet come to a comfortable hip distance. This time you can either keep your hands at your heart, you could come into cactus arms, or you can bring your arms out in front of you. So whatever one feels better for your shoulders, you can do that one. So again, toes up, we can kind of wiggle them around, take our weight more in the heels, belly and the ribs hug in, and then we start to sit back into our chair. So again, spreading those feet, so you're trying to stretch the mat out, feeling those hips and outer thighs activate more. I'm going to turn this way so you guys can Be better for this side of the body. One more inhale. And then we'll exhale back into our forward fold. Take a breath, lift your chest halfway up, palms to shins. And then exhale down. This time the right foot steps all the way back. Knee lowers down. And we sweep the arms up for Anjaneyasana. So making any of those little adjustments that you need. Belly in, ribs in, tailbone slightly tucked. And then we add our twist. So now the left arm sweeps back, right arm reaches forward. We're turning our body, our upper body, and head to the left. Now that left hand is releasing to our back leg. The right arm reaches up in the air. And then as we transition out, we'll lift, bring the right hand down to the mat inside the foot, left arm up in the air, tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, revolve lunge. Right, left hand lowers down to the mat. Let's step back to downward facing dog. And from downward facing dog, we'll come forward into plank or supported plank by taking knees down to the mat. Take a moment here, check in with the body, stabilize through the core, and then we lower down to the elbows. So the hips are staying elevated, but the forearms lower. Elbows line up directly under the shoulders. Take a breath in. We exhale, hips down to the floor, and then open for Sphinx. All right, so first option, if you want to take it directly back to child's pose, you can. If you'd like to play with dolphin pose again, picking up those hips and the knees, hips come higher, toes walk forward. We're hugging the elbows in. Belly and the ribs are pulling in towards the spine. And then maybe we try to shift the weight forward a little bit, come up onto the very tips of your toes, maybe your weight distribution here. And then once you feel complete, the knees lower down, and we all come to child's pose. Take just another breath or two. And then arms come back out in front. We move back towards downward dog. Let's open up the feet a little bit wider than the hips. Rotate the heels in. And then start to walk the hands backwards towards the feet. Now, if you know that squatting is rough on your knees or your ankles, you can come to a seat and come into butterfly pose, which I'll show you in a moment. However, if your knees can sustain the weight and the angle and the stress, you can start to bend the knees, drop the hips, and take the hands at the heart in Malasana. That's one option. The other option, actually, second option, come into happy baby pose. Similar. You did it at the start of class, so you're opening the hips in the same way, but you're not going to have the same stress on the ankles or the knees. So Malasana or happy baby pose, Ananda Balasana. So by nature, Malasana squat can be a very grounding pose. So if you are in either, just really sort of imagine your energy and your weight sort of drawing down into the root, and then the root connecting into the energy of the floor beneath you, feeling the floor underneath the feet. If you are on your back in happy baby pose, picturing the base of your spine, your tailbone rooting down into the floor. Take one more breath in. And exhale. Let's find our way to a seat. We'll come into Baddha Konasana, round angle pose, butterfly pose, a lot of different names. So deciding how and where you want to experience the sensation of this pose. If you want to feel more through the inner thighs and the groin, you might try pulling the heels in closer. If you prefer to feel more sensation through the hips and the outer thighs, then I would draw those heels further out, away from the body, and there's usually like a diamond shape that ends up in that empty space there. So sitting up tall, shoulders are back, and you're always welcome to remain seated upright. However, if you are choosing to fold forward, I want you to think about touching your chin to the wall in front of you. So rather than down, to keep from the upper back rounding too much, think about creating length by pulling the chin and the chest forward as you sort of take it down 1 centimeter at a time. And with your next inhale, let's start to sit up tall. We'll bring the knees together. As we come into our twist, we'll extend the left leg out in front of us. Now you have a couple of options here. You can keep your right foot to the inside of the leg, or you can cross the foot to the outside of the leg. You could also choose to bend the left knee if you wanted to add that, but that's certainly not required. Okay, so left leg is out straight to start, right foot or right knee is bent. Place the right hand behind us on the mat, and then it's always important to try to maintain a nice sense of length in the spine. So let's reach the left arm all the way up. And with our exhale, we'll turn to the right, either wrapping our arm around the leg, or you could try elbow to knee, and then take your gaze back. Now, a lot of times as we come into these poses, especially if we have that left leg extended, it's sometimes easy to forget about that leg, and that leg just kind of becomes like a noodle. Try to keep some energy flowing down through the leg. You can either press into the heel or press into the ball of the foot, but keep this extended leg active. And then feel the crown of your head lift straight up. Try to grow another inch taller if possible. And then using your inhale, come out of your twist. Extend that right leg out, maybe just bounce out the legs a little bit. And then we'll switch sides. So left knee bends. So option A. Option B, we cross over the leg. Option C, we tuck the right heel towards the left hip. So you might do the same thing on this side, or maybe you've got different issues or whatever going on this side of the body, and that range of motion is a little different. The left hand comes back, right arm lifts, and then we exhale as we twist. Any arm variation that works for you. And then remember to watch that energy moving down through the right leg if you have that leg extended. And then we inhale, come out of our twist, extend that left leg out. Bounce out the legs a little bit. Taking ourselves into Upavishta Konasana, opening those legs nice and wide. And again, you might decide to flex the feet, you might decide to point the feet. That really is a personal preference depending on how it feels in your body. So you can then take your hands to the inner thighs, thumbs to the top, and just sort of roll the inner thighs back a bit. Kind of get a sense of how that feels. Just drop the hands behind us. We can sit up a little bit taller here. Find a little bit of lateral flexion. So you can keep your right hand resting on the ground or kind of prop it up on the leg. Your left arm can either come behind your back or lift up and then over. Now, as we come into this lateral flexion, try to make sure that left shoulder isn't rolling forward and the chest isn't collapsing towards the ground. You want to sort of press the left shoulder open as though you're trying to open your chest up towards the ceiling. So again, don't force it, but energetically, that's sort of the direction we want to be moving in. And see if you can take a nice, expansive, deep breath in, just really opening up that left lung and left rib cage. And then lots of energy moving down through both legs. And our next breath we'll use to help us lift all the way up. Relax the left arm down, maybe roll the shoulders for a moment. Okay, so other side, we'll rest the left arm either on the leg or you can prop it on the mat. Right arm can either tuck behind the back or lift up. And then as we come into that lateral flexion, again, making sure we're not collapsing down towards the leg or towards the floor, but opening up instead. So that might mean maybe we don't go as far. That's okay. And you might notice you take smaller sips of breath. Also okay, just make sure you're breathing. And then the next breath, we'll start to lift ourselves up. And then we can grab the backs of the knees and just drag those heels in. Windshield wiper the knees side to side. And then Paschimottanasana, seated forward fold. So both legs extend straight out in front of us. Again, you can flex the feet or point through the toes or the balls of the feet. And we're going to start off with a moving asana first. So with your inhale, just reach the arms all the way up. With your exhale, start to hinge forward. And then draw the body back, draw the arms back. Inhale the arms up again. Exhale, back down. Inhale, we pull it back and up. Exhale, down. This time we'll hold. So you can grab the feet, you can rest your hands on your ankles or your shins. If you notice your shoulders are really wrapping up around the ears, try to just relax the shoulders back. Again, think about touching your chin to your toes rather than down towards your thighs or your knees. So by nature, forward folds are energetically very grounding. Certainly as we're seated, we feel a lot more stable. These are more stabilizing poses. So this is a good opportunity to just really drop back in, thinking about those tools and practices that you have in place or you might like to put in place for creating a sense of stability within yourself. Working from within really is important because we don't always have control over the external influences, our external environment. And when the external is feeling really uncertain or unstabilizing, we've got to do that extra work to make sure we're creating the stability. So the stability comes from within, and then externally can support it when it's available. All right, when you're ready, start to sit up nice and tall. And then before we come into seated meditation, let's come back to an upright position. You can bend your knees and just point your toes forward. And then take your hands behind you and just start to slowly walk the hands back. And you can go as far back as your body will allow. And if you want, you can kind of puff the chest up. And if you don't have any neck issues or you don't have any problems with vertigo or getting dizzy, you might even just drop the head back a little. So I usually feel this right across the tops of my shoulders and then down through my arms. It's a pretty good stretch. As we spend a lot of our day seated at our desk or watching TV or driving in the car, we end up really just hunching and rounding a lot. Nice counter pose to just stretch out the shoulders and open the chest and the throat. Take a nice deep breath. Whenever you feel ready, just slowly walk the hands back towards the body. And you can shake out the arms. Maybe give yourself a great big hug, elbows stacked, and let the chin drop into the chest. And then we'll go ahead and release. And we are going to finish, before we come into Shavasana, come into some few minutes of seated quiet meditation. So ultimately, the entire purpose for these postures, for this asana, is to prepare the body physically, mentally, energetically to sit in sustained periods of meditation. So I know a lot of times we sort of separate how we identify meditation from yoga. They're really one and the same. We're just holding space a little bit differently. So if you need to, you can grab a pillow or grab something to sit on. I usually like to lift my hips up a little bit higher. I find my seat has more ease when I do so. And then you can rest your hands either on your knees, palms up or down. Down for grounding, up for receptivity. I like to often place my hands in my lap, one hand on top of the other, and my thumbs together. Make a little circle here. And then just relax the shoulders back. I'm going to put on some music for this. So you can let your eyes close, or at least turn your gaze down to the tip of your nose. Maybe draw your mind's eye, with your eyes closed, draw your attention to the space between the brows. So that is the seat of consciousness and intuition. And just focusing on the energy of stability, what it means to you to feel that sense of stability within yourself and within your life. So at this point, you are welcome to remain seated if you're comfortable there. However, if you'd rather lie down on your back for the duration of Shavasana, just gently transition down onto your mat, legs out in front of you, and arms relaxed by your side. Let's start the transition back. Feeling the weight of your body resting on the floor. Feeling the breath expand through the body. Then allowing for gentle, small movements in the hands and the feet, and the arms and the legs. You're welcome to stretch and move any other way that feels appropriate and needed at this time. If you're on your back, feel free to roll to your side if you'd like, maybe hugging knees to chest, and just take another couple of breaths. And as you're ready, guide yourself up to a seat, placing your palms together at your heart in Anjali Mudra to seal your practice. Taking this opportunity to one more time speak your intention back into your body, back into your heart. And let's bow the head to the heart in gratitude for taking this time to join together in practice, to pay honor and reverence to this ancient and holy practice. May we all know love. May we all know peace. May we all know kindness. And may these things always flow to and from us. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. You all.